Hey, and welcome to another Student Branding TV. I am Kade Dworkin.
And I am Amber Lambke, and today we're going to be talking about managing your online identity and the importance of, kind of keeping a clear presence on Facebook. If you're on Twitter and you're on all of these social accounts, it's really important to, not forget who is actually going to see this content and who's going to see these posts and make sure that it's aligned with everything going on in your life. So, Kate, do you want to sort of kick it off with a story?
It's been pretty amazing for me because, I worked in the spam and abuse department at GoDaddy for, the better part of 3 years, but a little over 3 years actually. And so I saw a lot of people doing dumb things with their own identity online. Stories of people posting images and videos that just really didn't belong on the internet at all, and as a result got them in trouble at their workplaces. This is something that I talk about every once in a while, and I talk about in the chat that I gave today to 600 or 500, 600 ASU students, where I described, what you can and can't do in order to help clean up that stuff after the fact, which we'll touch on a little bit later. But, the biggest thing there is that people need to understand that the stuff you're doing is there forever. Right? As much as you might try and clean it up, as much as you might sit there and untag yourself from that Facebook photo, somebody still has it somewhere. And that's a scary thing when you begin to piece it all together and understand just how important it is that you act as if everything you're doing is going to be scrutinized by your parents or by a potential employer. So, that's kind of my overall scope on some of this stuff. Amber, you've had enough experience in this space that there's got to be something that stuck out to you regarding, people making mistakes with their online identity.
I think there's kind of a fine line because I put a lot of content out there and a lot of photos, and fortunate for me, I think the process when you're in college, you have to impress, professors, or you may not be 21, so you can't have a glass of wine in a photo. Or, when you're meeting with companies and meeting with recruiters trying to find a job, it's important to, I always say now, make sure that what you're writing about sort of is aligned with the future company you want to be working for. So, keep that in mind. It's, and I think most companies aren't going to hit on you if if you'd like to go out and have a good time, because I think a lot of people in the world do. But, keep it kind of classy. But personal story, I used to work for a company that was a part of Omnicom Group, and our sister agency, Ketchum, had this whole episode with an employee who was in Tennessee and had tweeted that how, I don't remember exactly what his tweet said, but something to the extent of how Tennessee, he would never want to live there or something, and was sort of just bashing on, his clients, where the client was, and they took it very offensively, and there was a big story about it. And so that's just an example of someone who, had some years in the field and still, didn't really think about the possible ramifications of, stating his opinion for a client, that it could be really important to them that, living in Tennessee and whatnot. So that's just an example.
There are all kinds of experiences like that, right, where people say things that they think are funny or whatever, and they're taken out of context as well. That's a big part of this. There are ways that you can neutralize some of that and try and provide context. If you have a blog, of course, you can try and do that. Things on photos for me, like you spoke a little bit about of the way that you live your life, right? And that seems to be very, very transparent, right? And I am very much in the same boat. So much so that it makes my parents uncomfortable, right? So when I go home, like I did this last week for Thanksgiving, my dad has a rule that I am not allowed to check in or tweet about stuff that I see within like a 10-mile radius of the house, right? Because it's a respect thing. It's a privacy thing for him, right? I may live my life out there so that everybody can see what I'm doing, but that doesn't mean he wants everybody to know where he's at or what's going on, and that just becomes a respect thing, right? And a lot of this comes down to knowing the people that you're around, knowing the context that you're giving for content. I've seen some of your fantastic photos from your latest New York trip, and that's fun, right? And all that has been kept classy, but as the great esteemed journalist and book author Jeff Jarvis said recently, I believe it was him, that very soon there is going to be a mutually assured humiliation on Twitter, on Facebook, on these tools, because everyone's going to have that one embarrassing moment, right? Everybody's going to have that one thing that they wish they could have had back, and I've already got a pair. So, you know what, it's just one of those things where if you do the digging, awesome, you can find it, but I made it as hard as I possibly could by, asking people to remove photos, cajoling them. Hey, if I have to buy you a nice bottle of wine, I'll do it. Just get it off the internet as often as I can. Now, I know it's sitting on a server somewhere dormant, but getting access to that can be a big hurdle for somebody that's doing an HR search, right? So, doing those kinds of things and being cognizant, like Amber said, of the fact that this stuff goes out, stays out, and, putting out content that you'll be proud of, regardless of the company that you're working for, because you never know when your competitor or your favorite ally is going to end up being the company that you all of a sudden are now begging a job from. So, anything else there, Amber?
No, I think you pretty much summed it up. Yeah, just no, actually, I have nothing else to add.
I'm blabbering again. That's not good. We need some back and forth here. We need something more from you. So, let me address this right now. I apologize that we missed each other and missed creating an episode over Thanksgiving. It just, everybody was traveling and it got a little hectic, and I ended up being in multiple spots over the course of our normal shooting time, so it just didn't quite work out. And I apologize, because I know that I have an expectation of putting out consistent and regular content, because I know how important it is for some of my folks, and the fact that we couldn't at least send up something saying, hey, we'll be back next week is concerning to me. But, thank you for sticking through that little break. We're going to try and not do it again. Hopefully we'll be able to tape the Christmas episode somewhere over the next week or so and get that in the can so that we don't have to worry about working over any kind of holiday. So, but that being the case, I am Kade Dworkin.
Remember Lambke?
Be sure to check out our fellow contributors over at studentbranding.com. If you have responses or ideas that you want for us to talk about, by all means, shoot us an email. That's studentbrandingtv@gmail.com. I am at Kade Dworkin on Twitter, and Amber is at Amber_Ray. And that's always in the bottom third there for you guys to make it just that much easier. But thanks again for your time, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.